Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise. My name is Marcus Future. You may call me the Timeline Man. And for those who don't know me, which is usually most of you, I am an artist and game developer who makes content for various parts of the internet. There's too many things to list. I know I haven't posted an art video in a while, so I have this process video for print design as I talk about Kanpai 2024, the first convention I ever vended at. Long after it happened. I originally wanted to make this video shortly after the con, but oh well. First of all, what even is Kanpai? In short, it's an Omaha-based anime convention, and as of recently, it has become the only Omaha-based anime convention after NebraskaCon moved to Iowa. So, as such, it's the only convention I've vended at so far, since I don't really want to apply for sales tax permits and handle all the paperwork about taxes of an entire other state when I don't even make that much money to begin with. It's run by a group that does Anime Midwest, and I've heard some things about the people behind it, but this video isn't about him or the emails he's constantly spamming you with. That's an entirely different topic. See, I live in Nebraska, so my company, Teeter's Edge LLC, is also based here. So my options for vending art here are limited, to say the least. Thankfully, Kanpai is pretty small, which means the process and costs for getting a table were fairly minimal, with a first come first served model and costing $100 for a table and a badge in 2023. 2024. Years be passing. Now, I wasn't going alone. I dragged along my wonderful husband, so I also had to spend $35 on a weekend badge. All in all, not a bad price tag for a first-time convention. I'd also been to Kanpai before, once before COVID, while they were still in the Omaha Ramada, which is where NebCon was back then as well, and once afterward when they moved to the Hilton Omaha, which is a much nicer space, all things considered, and it allows for much friendlier con layout. I really liked the vibes of the con when I'd gone before, so I was pretty pumped to go to it for my first vending experience. I did a lot of research and prep beforehand to try and have a decent selection. Ultimately, I think my selection ended up with 4 smaller print designs and 7 sticker designs, which was really just because I couldn't afford to get more designs made before the convention itself came around. Now, another cost of attendance is the hotel. The con had a deal with a discounted rate for con goers, but it still came out to about $600 for the weekend, so I thought, but I'll get to that in a bit. Let's get to the experience of arriving on Thursday for setup. The con layout was unchanged from the previous year, so I got to the artist alley very easily. It was in the exact same place I thought it was. We were directed to our table, which was only one table away from me, the first table by the entrance. Great. That seemed great. At least, again, I thought at the time. And we got set up pretty quickly because we didn't have all that much to set up. Just some wire grids we made it. We had a little banner. It was great. Nice little setup. Then we went to go get our hotel room. So I knew I was going to have to save over time to afford the hotel room and to buy a couple of things in the alley myself because I like supporting artists. So what I did was I'd take $10 to $20 out of my paycheck and kept it in cash separately. In 2023, I had a room for the con and paid in cash at this same hotel. So, I figured I'd be fine. This was my first mistake, apparently, because something happened in that year time span that the hotel decided to become a quote-unquote cashless location, meaning they wouldn't take cash as payment for a room. When I tell you I panicked upon hearing this, I'm far from exaggerating. The lady at the desk did tell me that I could put the money onto a card at a machine they had in the lobby. Absolutely baffling to me, because that meant, no, there was cash in the building and it could be handled, but it was 20 feet away from the front desk and in some sort of fucked up reverse ATM. So fine, I went over and slowly entered in all of my $20 bills. I got the card and I went back to the desk, and then 3 more aggravations happened. First, I found out that the taxes included in the number that I had been given after reserving the room were incomplete. The second was that the security deposit was also not included or mentioned anywhere in the process of reserving the room. And third, despite everything I'd done and said about the card, and how I had the money specifically for the room and nothing else on the card, the lady at the desk just didn't use $20 off the card. She said it was so I could use it for things later if I have to. What? This meant, after all the savings I did, I still owed $130, which was almost all of the money I had left in my bank account from that week's paycheck. But hey, I got the room. Hooray! I was a little bummed out that it meant I couldn't order food for dinner, though, on account of no money. But it wasn't a big deal. We brought ramen bricks, bagels, pizza rolls for this exact reason, because we already knew this place overcharged as all hell for food of any sort. Then we found out that the room neither contained a microwave or a freezer inside of its weird little mini fridge. The only microwave was a single communal one for the entire floor. It should be stated that this hotel was far from small. The floors were terrifyingly long hallways. The microwave room was somewhere toward the middle, thank God. But we were kind of near one end, so in order to make ramen, we had to fill the bowl with water beforehand and walk across a long hallway, trying not to spill too much. And then, without a freezer, we could only refrigerate the pizza rolls, which were already starting to thaw from the drive and waiting until after the booth was set up. At that point, I was already pretty peeved that I'd spent over $700 for this stay, and then I see the paper thing advertising a premium Wi-Fi I could use, which that really got to me. I don't want to say it just really got onto my nerves. Then comes the question of the quality of the room itself, right? How was it? Well, we had been moved to a room with 2 beds for some reason. Thankfully, we weren't upcharged for it, I think. The pillows were soft to an annoying extent, and they were rather difficult to wrangle as my head collapsed into the middle, but the sides stayed fully inflated. I sleep on my side, so that was a big issue to me. I know it sounds like I'm being fussy for no reason, and maybe I am, but I was already very frustrated with this place. The one last annoyance I had with this hotel was that the TV was locked down. I had brought my Nintendo Switch for use during downtime, like Thursday evening and Friday morning I had expected to be. So obviously, I wanted to hook up the system to the hotel TV. I found plugs and ports and everything, got it all hooked up, and found out that I couldn't change the TV's input at all. Meaning the hotel TV was only usable for live TV, which sure didn't seem to interest either me or my husband. So I played the Switch in handheld mode, hunched over on the hotel bed before going to sleep. Finally, we get to the first day of the con, sort of. First, there's the Friday morning to get through. My husband and I were both evening to night shift people, so we had alarms set and forced ourselves up and at them early, so that we could, make sure that we would be okay for Saturday and Sunday. This was made easier by taking showers. As I said before, we knew the hotel was going to charge like hell for our food, but my husband was desperate enough not to walk to the microwave to check what the restaurant prices were. A simple breakfast bagel, described as effectively a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich under the plain bagel, was over $10. So needless to say, we didn't jump for it. We went to the artist alley at exactly the time set-up hours were said to be, partly because we were just bored, and partly because I wanted to see my favorite part of the convention. All of the artist booths. There's just something magical to me about seeing everyone's setups and artwork. I did see a few of the booths on Thursday, but I was one of the first to set up, and consequently, one of the first to leave. On Friday, though, I got to see all of the booths with all sorts of different fandoms. Kanpai Con is an anime convention, but most artists had the related fields of cartoons and gaming in the repertoire, including me, which is fairly common, because it's good to cast a wide net. Very rarely are people only anime fans. Between the artists and the vendors, the variety of stuff for sale was dizzying. There were paws, face masks, handmade plushies, official merch and figures, model kits. There was a bookstore selling manga. There were a couple indie authors selling their own comics, including a man I'd been hoping to see for a while, Jet Falco, author of the Dreamer's Echo series, of which I had purchased the first volume a number of years ago, so I got the second volume during this event. And then there was me, with a few stickers and a few prints. My husband was also getting really into beading at the time, so we set it up to sell the things he made as well, which were some pride flag earrings and some bead lizard earrings mainly. Most of the stock of his stuff was made during the convention, so it didn't really appear on Friday all that much. So, Friday afternoon. Con opens. The wall behind me was shared with the ballroom where opening ceremonies were happening. This will be relevant again later. Immediately after opening ceremonies, the first big rush of people enter the alley. Now, like I said, I'm basically at the entrance to the artist alley, so I see everyone. That also, unfortunately for my rather shaky newbie confidence, means I saw everyone look over my art for a second or two and continue on quickly. I did my best to engage with anyone who lingered, but after about 2 hours, I'd had many exchanges with a lot of cool people, but no sales. Now, my logical brain said, we're going to lose money on this event no matter what. I only brought $300 worth of products to sell. I know full well I'm not going to sell all of it. It's fine. But the emotional part of my brain that had just been given tacked on fees from the hotel said, we are never going to financially recover from this event if we can't sell anything at all. And in the battle inside my mind and heart, the emotional side was winning. I want to say I kept a decent face until the end of Friday, but I was definitely deflating on the way back to the room. My only sale being one guy who actually bought one of each of my stickers somewhere in the middle of the day. Now, Saturday felt worse, because now everyone else was in full swing. My husband had a number of earrings put out now, and we sold a few of them, and the folks on either side of me, who were much more well-established vendors with a large variety of work available for purchase, were drawing standing crowds. To be clear, I'm glad they were doing well, but man, did that shit sting in the moment. Especially when I thought there were people looking at my work, so I greeted them, only to find out that they were looking through the grids of my stall at my neighbor's stuff. That stings. No one's really at fault there, but it stung. Somewhere in the middle of Saturday, I think I came close to crying from the storm of emotions and like that whole battle inside me. First, there was the money aspect of it. I'd taken multiple days off of work for this and spent a lot of money to be here. But there was also a side I hadn't expected. My pride in my work was hurt really bad. I grew up a martial artist, so I thought I had learned how to deal with my ego being destroyed, but I guess not. The feeling of having art that I'd spent hours on just be swept past, and even worse, looked directly through, was causing something of a physical reaction, like a stomach ache. I felt sick. Now, I've had service jobs for most of my life at this point, so I think I was able to keep a calm and friendly face toward customers, but my interactions with my stall neighbors soured. I complained a bit loudly during downtimes about my general lack of sales and about the people who seemed to be looking through my stall into theirs. I dressed them all up as humor, but looking back, I was making an ass of myself, and I think they felt pity to me to some degree, because at the end of the con, they tried to give me some words of encouragement, and I thank them for that. In the later part of Saturday, I sold a couple more stickers, both of which were a Miku sticker I had made, and one of the last ones to come in before the con, thankfully. Speaking of, I gave one of my Miku stickers away to someone who had a really nice Ebu Otori cosplay from Colorful Stage or Project Sekai. She later came back and gave me a Hello Kitty sticker that I put on a notebook that I was using to record sales. Unfortunately, I've lost it since then, which is sad, but I remember her. She was bright. She was a great bright spot for me in the event. Now, ask any veteran con goer and they'll tell you Sundays are always weird. Most people are really tired, cosplays are falling apart or half put on or what have you. Some stalls are closed up early and left before the start of Sunday. What makes Kanpai Sunday even stranger in vibes is that the con is scheduled around Easter Sunday every year, and they encourage people to bring small children along for family-oriented activities on Sundays. So basically, Sunday morning in the Artist Alley had a fascinating mix of weary attendees who had been up far too late the night before, people in half cosplays plus bunny ears because Easter, small children who didn't really know or care about the anime characters that were in the art, but would recognize things their parents had shown them. In particular, I have a print of Anya and Lloyd from Spy Family that got a lot of pointing from children. And grandparents who had been dragged along for the ride. In this mix, my husband's bead stuff sold pretty decently. I sold a couple stickers the entire rest of the time. Overall, my most popular sticker was a Miku sticker, which I expected, and my prints just generally weren't that popular. However, I did sell at least one of everything due to a couple of very generous people who decided to buy one of everything. And, despite the terrible emotions I felt during much of that event, I had a lot of fun, which is why I'm doing it again at Kanpai 2025. I'll have a booth for the weekend, this time April 18th through the 20th. I've learned a lot of lessons, I've got some new artwork, and hopefully physical copies of physical... Oh wait, actually no, this isn't hopefully. Scratch that. I've got some new artwork and physical copies of Sunset of the Elements available for sale. I just kind of hope I get this video out on time so this works as a promo. Well, until next we meet, stay safe out there, and take care of each other, because no one should be alone when the going gets rough.